She's big, she's wide, she is fast. I guess you could call the Michigan International Speedway the 18-wheeler of the tracks that the ARCA Menards Series races on. And today we'll do it for the 41st time with the Henry Ford Health 200 at Michigan International Speedway. It has been an absolutely gorgeous day. Blue skies, hot temperatures, and that usually equates to really fast laps on the racetrack. Are you ready for some awesome ARCA Menards Series racing? High atop the track, I am Krista Kelly standing alongside Jim Trado. And tonight we have Austin Cindric, driver of the number 2 in the Cup Series, Daytona 500 Series champion, Xfinity Series champion, and a winner here in the ARCA Menards Series. So are you ready to have some fun? What's it like being back here to call some ARCA Menards Series racing?
Yeah, happy Saturday. Happy to join you guys, and looking forward to seeing some guys go really fast.
And we will certainly have that tonight. We also have some headlines sort of percolating from practice and qualifying. It is a strange schedule. They've been here since early this morning, practice and qualifying. Now they're getting ready to race this evening. But all year long, we've been talking about really 2 names atop the point standings.
Nick Sanchez won at Kansas Speedway, but he trails his teammate Rajat Karuth by 2 points after 11 races. That's 2 positions on the racetrack. Those 2 drivers with Rev Racing have been really consistent all year long. I know Rajat Karuth had consistency. Nick Sanchez, however, has had 2 victories this year at Talladega and Kansas Speedway. That's the difference, really, when it comes down to it with these teammates. They've performed really well. They love this size racetrack. And by the way, when we win at Kansas, Rajat Karuth finished second to his teammate Nick Sanchez. They come into this race determined to run with her at Michigan. One of them may come out with a point lead. Hey, we might be tied after this one. Who knows? They've been close all year long.
Yeah, when you talk about the consistency, I mean, when one jabs left, the other sort of hooks right, and that's why they're sort of stuck together. So, yeah, it's been really exciting. But we have some other names we want to talk about, and one of those being Brett Holmes. He raced here in 2020, led a ton of laps, Austin, almost won the race, went on to actually win at Kansas and win the championship that year. But as a driver, when you come back and you have a race that you led and dominated, how long does that stay with you?
It stays with you your whole career until you can redeem yourself. And I tell you what, the opportunity for redemption makes Brett Holmes walk into this racetrack today with a purpose. You know, there's a lot of guys that are really hungry, but he has no points on the line. He wants to go out and get it done.
So Brett Holmes drives the 23, and when we talk about him, I mean, he's young. He's only 25 years old, but it is a homecoming. I think it is, coming back to a track that he dominated like that.
2017, 18, 19, and 20 and 19 full-time in this series. A big breakthrough win at Kansas Speedway. Track kind of like this one. It happened in July of his championship year. But when it came down to it, he had to perform throughout the season. Kansas Speedway was also the finale. He locked in the championship. Just that one victory, but as Austin said, man, it stays with you. He led 61 laps here in 2020 and came home second. Didn't win that one, but I'm sure that's on his mind today.
All right, so we know he is hungry, but let's talk about another driver. We're going to have some fun. We know Mike Massaro always has fun when he's at a racetrack, and he's down there and wants to talk about someone else we should watch, right, Mike?
Someone who's going to be a lot of fun to watch is Sammy Smith. No reason to believe he's not going to be at the front at some point today. He posted the second fastest qualifying lap. He's also driving the car that Ty Gibbs used to dominate this race a year ago. But there are some obstacles. One, a change in crew chief. Mark McFarland, his regular crew chief, is at home sick. They found out yesterday. Thrust into the leadership position is Matt Ross. He's normally the engineer. Problem is they haven't spent a lot of time today because Sammy spent most of the day in the Xfinity Series garage, where he raced just a moment ago, finished a 2-hour race there. He's a little bit fatigued, but perhaps the biggest obstacle, an unapproved adjustment after qualifying, will force this car to start at the back of the field today. Sammy Smith's going to make his way, or try to make his way from the back, and that should be fun to watch. Krista?
If we were keeping up with everything there, he's starting in the back, Austin. He has a different voice in his head because his crew chief is home, and he's already raced a race. I mean, that is an advantage, but there's a lot going on for that race team today.
Absolutely, and when you look at it as a driver, adrenaline is the best medicine physically, but I think he's been thrown into a lot of new situations this weekend. You know, watching that Xfinity race, he did a really great job, actually made a lot of moves on series veterans, moving his way through the field on longer runs. I was pretty impressed until he sped on pit road, but I won't hold that against him. Now is another opportunity for redemption for Sammy, but I think he's going to use that experience from the Xfinity race to carve through the field here, get back up to Corey Heim and try and fend off this win.
Yeah, a lot going on, but we're anticipating he's going to be slicing and dicing.
It's a statement race as well. Sammy Smith just turned 18 in June, so he got to race at Pocono, but he didn't get to race at Kansas this year. We use that kind of as a model for what will happen at Michigan. Who will be strong here? It's Sammy's first chance. Thankfully, he had 250 miles in that Xfinity Series race, but those cars drive a bit different. This experience with this team, they're only missing one key component, the crew chief. Everybody else is intact with this team. He's got great leadership. in the Kyle Busch Motorsports camp. So I'm looking forward to seeing Sammy come forward, and a couple of other drivers that will have to cut their way through early on will be fun to watch too.
And we're going to be telling you about those here over the next couple of hours as we get ready to race 100 laps on this 2-mile track, the 200 here at Michigan. We see the cars getting ready. We are getting ready as well. We have a lot of storylines to follow. We can't wait to bring it for you. So let's get downstairs for today's race command here at Michigan.
Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command to start engines, please welcome our Grand Marshal, Henry Ford at home, South Michigan Region Clinical Team Supervisor, Carlos Riddle.
Drivers, start your engines.
What about Carlos Riddle there? What a trooper with the broken wing giving the command. We are ready to go racing. We're going to bring it to you. The Henry Ford Health 200, the ARCA Menards Series racing at Michigan when we return.
General Tire, the official tire of preparation. The official tire of hard work. The official tire of ambition. General Tire, the official tire of the ARCA Menards series.
For your viewing pleasure, this month, the MAV TV Motorsports Network presents... Wait a second. This is all-out, full-bore, no-holds-barred racing. Welcome to ARCA Town in the month of June on MAV TV. 3 races to cap off a summer filled with live racing. The ARCA Menards Series is live from the land of Lincoln, the dirt of Illinois State Fairgrounds, on Sunday, August 21st on the MAV TV Motorsports Network.
ARCA Menards Series is brought to you by General Tire. For whatever you do, General Tire delivers. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. And by Menards. Save big money at Menards.
Welcome back to Michigan. Taking a look at the Race 411 brought to you by Lucas Oil. And as we look at this, we already know, okay, 2 miles, 100 laps. We've covered that. What we haven't covered, Jim, is this is a General Tire Super Speedway Challenge race. We haven't talked about that.
Yeah, 7 races in the 20-race schedule are on big tracks. Daytona, Talladega, here at Michigan, Kansas twice. Those 7 races have a separate point system. General Tire's putting up a bunch of money to win the General Tire Super Speedway Challenge. Separate points just for those 7 races. When Aaron Crocker won the General Tire Super Speedway Challenge, all she did was run the big track. So it gives those teams that want to run big track and to get experience another shot at some more cash.
In Austin, we call them the competition cautions, but they're kind of those stage breaks. You're used to kind of that stage racing. So what are you anticipating, knowing that you kind of race in these 3 separate segments?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 200 miles is a pretty long ARCA Menards race, but it gives these drivers 2 opportunities to work on their race cars. And let me tell you, the track has changed a lot since they were on the racetrack this morning for practice. There's, obviously Cup Series practice, an entire Xfinity race, and I think their cars are going to drive a lot worse in traffic already, and there's a lot more rubber on the racetrack.
Okay, so we know the track has changed a little bit. What hasn't changed is the driver who was fast, the driver who is the General Tire Pole Award winner, a familiar name and a familiar car number. Today it was the number 20 of Corey Heim. Corey Heim, he's raced with us here a few times this year, won at Daytona, most recently 2nd at Charlotte, and 2nd in this race last year, Jim.
Big deal for Corey to get more experience here. He's driving this car. He's splitting the season with Jesse Love, who's not old enough to race at these big tracks, so Corey's made the most of it. Winning at Daytona, getting this team a really good placement in that General Tire Super Speedway Challenge point standings already.
So here is how they line up. We mentioned Corey, mentioned Sammy Smith going to the back, but I know, Austin, you're keeping your eye on a couple of guys there in row 3 and 4.
Yeah, we got Gustine and Cody Coughlin, 2 guys with a lot of experience in the series. They're bringing up row 3 and 4, and good to see Cody back in a race car. And Pretty exciting top 10 here.
Yeah, Gus Dean, an ARCA Menards Series winner, like Austin Cindric, who's joining us tonight, that voice that you're hearing. As we go further back in the field, again, 21 cars are lining up, and Jason Kitzmiller had a good qualifying effort.
Great on the big tracks. He had an oil line issue in practice, cost him a lot of track time, but Todd Myers and the gang got him back on the track, qualified in the 9th position.
Row 6, you see Tony Bredinger, one of our point stands. She's running the whole season, running in the top 5 in points. Michigan native Brad Smith there in row 8, and that number 48. We actually have 4 drivers from Michigan in the field. Daniel Dye, that's a driver in 3rd in the standings, a big name here in the series. Trouble in practice and qualifying, starting in row 10.
He's 5 points out of the championship lead, so an early start for him. That's another big way for Daniel to get noticed here at his first trip to Michigan from way in the back.
Taking a look at our onboard cameras, we have 3 this evening. Sammy Smith on board with the Bounty camera, and that number 18. Again, he is starting in the back, so we're going to have fun watching him race to the front. There you see the number 20, Corey Heim. He is carrying the General Tire camera for us this evening. There is his onboard. And we mentioned Daniel Dye. Daniel Dye in the 43 has the Race to Stop Suicide camera. He also starting from the back. So these guys are giving us a lot to talk about. We haven't even gone green yet, and we're already anticipating that there's going to be some racing from the back of the pack.
Daniel Dye qualified 19th, but that team was one of 3 that said, hey, you know what, you need to make more changes. And out of impound, he came out of impound, so did Sammy Smith, so did the number 10 of Tim Monroe, so that they have to drop to the very back of the field here before we go green.
Austin, do you like this view up here? You get to see a lot when you're up here in the booth, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've spent a lot of time watching races from spotter stands, especially last year when I could stay on Sundays and watch Cup races. So it's a great vantage point, and I think this racetrack really gives a lot of opportunities for fans in the grandstands to be able to see a lot of the racetrack, a lot of the racing, and a lot of the speed. You know, this place is all known about speed, and I can tell you they're a haul in the mail, even in the ARCA Menards series going into turn 1.
Yeah, they're over 180 miles an hour is what they're going to turn in these laps, right, Jim?
Average speed. Going into 1, we're talking maybe $190 if they get it right.
It's not slow.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to have Austin Cindric along with us. We're also excited to have you at home watching on MAV TV. Like we said, it's been a beautiful day here at Michigan. These drivers that you see turning their pace laps right now out on the racetrack, they were here bright and early. These teams have been working early. They had practice, they had qualifying, and then they've sort of been sitting around waiting to get this thing started. So, Mike, is there a sense of urgency downstairs?
Definitely a sense of urgency, especially if you're one of those guys who had to drop to the back of the field like Daniel Dye. It's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for him to get that car hooked up. Had very little practice. In fact, fewer than 3 laps. Very early in practice, he cut down a right rear tire. And then in qualifying, a right front tire got cut down. At that point, he actually slapped the wall, pancaked the right side of that car. Heavy damage to the right front fender. The team spent much of the afternoon repairing the car, getting it ready just to roll off at the back. It'll be interesting to see if he can get that car to go forward. A lot of attention paid to the 43 this afternoon.
And he's a team that has so much performance, but really has had some bad luck. We've been talking about how this season has almost been a character builder for that number 43, starting 19th. I anticipate that's going to be a storyline tonight.
Front row now is Corey Heim choosing the outside, and our point leader, Raja Caruth, gets that gift from Sammy Smith going to the back. He'll be on row 1 to start this one.
Yeah, what I see here is 2 teammates already lined up in the outside lane, and at Michigan, the outside lane is really important on restarts, getting the momentum coming off the corner. Really hard for the guy on the bottom to wrap. So I think Raja is going to be looking for a way up as good as possible if he doesn't get a good jump here.
See pace car down onto pit road. That 20 of Corey Heim, talking about those teammates. The 15 of Gus Dean driving for Venturini Motorsports. That green flag is out, and we are racing at Michigan.
A pretty massive jump by Corey Heim to start the race, so Raja will have a good opportunity to get up into the outside lane here. It kind of left his help from Gus Dean, but I guess it didn't need it.
Corey Heim's been really good at restarts. Oh, and by the way, he drives for Kyle Busch Motorsports in the NASCAR Truck Series. Kyle's the king of restarts. Corey's doing a lot of work this year. He not only won twice in the Truck Series, but's done really well in every race he's run. And look at him take out this early lead, and there's Raja in pursuit. They're weaving already down the backstretch here on lap 1.
Yeah, Caruth was able to get a pretty good draft on the backstretch and make Corey check the mirror. So I think he'll get a good run off the top here as well. Already a little bit loose. I think that's some of that track rubber coming in.
It's different rubber. We're coming into General Tire zones, but we had so much of the Xfinity race just ended. That's a transition for these teams. Austin, how weird is that when you come on different rubber in the first start of the race and you're going this fast early on?
Yeah, you kind of just have to guess and check and figure it out. And I think that's what a lot of these drivers are going to be doing at the start of the race here. And see kind of a few nervous wiggles and a few soft entries. And I think those jitters are going to go away as drivers start to figure out the racetrack.
I want to tell you what you didn't see at home. Right on the start, that green flag drops, and Austin talked about that launch. Austin launched out of his seat. You're 6'4". You jumped up to see what was happening down there going into turn 1.
Yeah, I was certainly curious to see how long that run would carry, but obviously Corey's got some speed in the car and a really great jump. I think he caught some of those guys sleeping.
Well, we're looking for some sweet moves out here on the track, and that's how you at home can get involved in this race as well. We have the Reese's Sweet Move of the race. We're going to give you 3 moves. We're going to nominate 3. You're going to choose. You go on our Twitter page at ARCA_racing starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow to vote for your favorite out of the 3.
Pretty good little move there by Brett Holmes, dropping it down onto the flat into turn 1. Might cost himself a spot here. Definitely costing Carruth 2 spots here. See what Nick Chan says can do on the bottom here. As Brett Holmes sits pretty close to his door, takes a little grip away from him.
Brett Holmes now racing in the NASCAR Truck Series. He's got Connor Mosack in his car for this team for 10 races this year. 5 of those, all top 10 finishes, but Brett's only had a chance to race this car once this year. Finished second at his home track at Talladega.
Yeah, Shane Huffman, crew chief for that team, a veteran as well. But yeah, it's always interesting when they have to kind of get used to different drivers all the time in this ARCA Menards series, different drivers racing at different tracks.
We only have 6 full-time drivers, so when it comes down to getting those points, the number 20 team, they collect owner's points. They're in this series full-time. So when Corey can get wins or get points, hey, he's 4th in the General Tire Super Speedway Challenge based upon those 5 finishes he's had already this year, or 4, I should say. This is the 5th race for him out of 6 this year.
Corey Heim, just 20 years old, so his age matches his car number. Talking to him, I said, you know, what do you do outside the racetrack? Pretty much, no, I go to the racetrack, I go to the race shop. That's what they do.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
He does a lot of sim work for Kyle Busch Motorsports truck team as well. That started last year already, which helps him a lot when he's not in the seat on a given weekend, getting some more time to help that team go forward, that he gets to race with part-time this year.
And Corey's done a great job in the truck stuff. I mean, I think he's usually a contender to win in that 51 truck a lot of the times when he's in it. So I think a lot of these drivers in this series take notice of that, and anytime they can run with him is important.
Battle for 9th and 10th here. That's Amber Balkin in the number 30 Icon Ford, the number 72. Welcome back, Cody Coughlin in the Jags number 72. That's a Ford presented. They own it. Coughlin Racing owns this car. They bought it off of DGR, David Gilliland Racing. Their engine and transmission and the car itself came from DGR, who's had such great success this year with Taylor Gray, who's not old enough to race here at Michigan this weekend.
And Cody Coughlin was one you said right at the start, Austin, when you looked at the starting grid, kind of wanted to watch.
Yeah, just getting back behind the wheel of the race car. It's at least the first time I've seen him back in a race car in quite a while, so I'm sure that's a fun day for him and his family to get back out here and have a little bit of fun. And what a racetrack to come back to, you know, pretty fast. I know they do a lot of drag racing in their family, so it's, you know, it's pretty fast there too, but in a closed course environment for sure.
I think it sped up a little bit when his cousin Troy Jr. won his first Wally last weekend, so I think that's part of the whole idea of we got to go racing, guys. His dad John very much involved in the process of getting Cody back in the ARCA Menards series.
Riding on board with Daniel Dye in that number 43. Daniel Dye, one of our points contenders, 3rd in the standings, but again having to start in the back of the pack. He started 19th.
I don't think that slowed him down. He's already up to 6th.
That's what I was just looking for him, and I'm like, wow, he's up to 6th already. Let's take a look at our auto park it replay. Again, starting 19th at number 43. We knew it probably wouldn't take him long to get back up to the front. But keep your eye on that 40.
Getting a big draft into the corner here, trying to figure out where to take it. All the way up, all 4 in the resin, taking the momentum. That was a really brave move probably for the beginning of the race, especially knowing how many clearancing issues they had with the car, but I don't think these guys are very afraid.
Mike, what's going on with that number 43?
Well, let me tell you, you know, we talked about his struggles in practice and qualifying today, but he had some coaching that may be responsible for his rebound here. I had a little time with Daniel this afternoon, and he got a phone call from a NASCAR Hall of Famer. Mark Martin gave him a call to give him a little coaching about Michigan. Now, remember, it wasn't too long ago, just about a month ago, Mark was his crew chief at a late model race in Montana. Well, they've maintained a relationship. Mark coached Daniel this afternoon, talking to him especially about how to enter turn 1 and turn 3. He also told him, do not be afraid of using the bottom of the racetrack. And of course, Mark, who has had some success here at Michigan, said, hey kid, don't worry, that track's easy.
Yeah, Mark's only won here 5 times in 56 cup races, so when he gives you a ring, you better listen. Great advice by that young driver getting that. Mark Martin actually was his crew chief at a short track a couple weeks ago back out west, so it's kind of cool they have that connection.
Well, and when your phone, I mean, Austin, I know that's happened to you after you won the Daytona 500. I'm sure your phone lit up. Was there anyone where you were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's calling right now?
Absolutely. It's funny, though, because my first time going to Fontana in Xfinity car, I had a phone call with Mark Martin trying to figure out what I was in for, because that's another 2-mile racetrack, another bit of a daunting racetrack. And it's funny because you spend so much time worrying about momentum. The bottom lane is still very important to try and get a pass done. You know, you saw there he was able to work. Daniel Dye was able to work the bottom, get around Gustine, but at the same time he left a big hole open, and Sammy Smith was able to draft by and pass both of them. So it's still definitely important to try and work that draft, and that's what it's all about at these big racetracks.
Brett Holmes has got it in the second in that golden maple syrup 23, and he brought with him the number 2 of Nick Sanchez. Where's Rajah Caruth? Right out of this frame. He's back to 4th now.
So many big names up front. It didn't take them long, and they are turning some fast laps down there. I know that there's a lot of people with eyes on this racetrack. Mike Massaro, who else is down there watching things?
Well, Krista, you talk about big names. Well, there's a big name that continues to get bigger. That would be Ty Gibbs. He's right now on the pit box of the 18. Remember, he was the driver of this car last year, winning so many races, including this one here at Michigan, a race he just absolutely dominated. Still shows a very tight connection with his team. He's on top of the pit box trying to help Matt Ross, who's sitting right next to him. He is the interim crew chief here today, filling in for Mark McFarland. Now, remember, Ty Gibbs, he just got out of a race car. Finished the Xfinity race with a victory there. Hot day, several laps, couple hours in that car, but you know, Ty still looks as fresh as a daisy. He looked like he could run another race right now.
And he's wearing the colors of 2311 because he's racing with you tomorrow, Austin. He's got another drive in place of Kurt Busch tomorrow here at Michigan in the Cup Series.
Yeah, big weekend for Ty Gibbs for sure. So he must be staying at the racetrack, because if I'm him, I'm out of here getting dinner. Cause big important day tomorrow, and their cars seem to have some speed. So obviously Ty's pretty talented. Hasn't slowed down moving up the Cup Series and filling in these races.
And all this time that you guys, if people are new to watching racing, you spend a lot of time at the racetrack, because every race you can watch, everything you can do, you're learning. You're watching right now, Austin, learning things. I know it's 2 completely different kinds of cars, but things that you could use tomorrow possibly as well.
Absolutely. You know, most Saturdays, you know, usually the ARCA race hasn't finished yet or is already done, or, you know, so usually I'm watching the Xfinity Series race, trying to see how the track builds, especially with those cars, because, you know, I spent 4 years racing in the series, but certainly important to understand how the track changes, especially when practice conditions are so different. It's good to get back in mindset as well of different racing scenarios and restart situations.
And Austin has raced everything. I mean, you've raced road courses, you've raced Indy cars, you've raced sports cars. So we'll get into a little bit of that in a bit as we continue to watch Corey Heim lead here in the ARCA Menards Series at Michigan. He certainly has got this place figured out right now, but what are your keys to winning here at Michigan, Jim?
When it comes to this racetrack, a few things stand out to me. The turn 1 entry, when Ryan Blaney was here in an ARCA car, that's a teammate for Austin Cindric and Penske Racing. When he went into turn 1, I stood up on the top of the roof and went, what's he doing different? Turn 1 entry is everything, I think. Getting into that corner, it carries that momentum all the way to turn 3. Also, these restarts, ultra critical, getting a clean restart. We saw much of an advantage it was for Corey Heim on the initial start to get that gap early. We have 2 race breaks here. The competition cautions on lap 35 and 70. I say on lap 65, you're 30 laps into that run. When we come back from our last break at lap 70, you may not get another chance to come to pit road. You can't put tires on. So at lap 70, when they come in, lap 65, I think is a pretty important time to check up and say, what are we doing right? What do we need to change? Because that's the same feeling you hope to have or improve on 30 laps to the end, which is 100 laps after 70. So, I mean, it's all into the relativity of lap 65. What you're handling, that's a critical point in the race.
I'm so glad you explained that, because I was looking at, 35 and 70. So when you said lap 65, I thought, no, Jim, it's lap 70. You're saying when you have that 5-lap window, when you know you've got 5 laps to figure out what you're going to do, that's what's key.
And your first year in the Cup Series, Austin Cindric, when you know there's a stage break coming and you get a caution, you get a chance to talk to your crew chief, how do you feel with 3 or 4 to go? Is that when you guys communicate about what you need to get in that car on those pit stops?
Yeah, I mean, as a driver, I don't think of it as 35 and 70. I think of it as a 35-lap run and a 35-lap run. So what do I need for my race car to do 35 laps? And I think that's, you know, what do you need for the restarts? What do you need for, you know, being able to get track position? What do you need for long runs? And as you see the race progress here, you know, there's actually a lot of race cars that are in the similar lap time range. You know, you've got Corey Heim out here in the lead, but you've got, you know, the 2 and the 6 all running very similar lap times to the leader, and so they're all keen off of each other. So I think these restarts are very important looking at these race cars.
Yeah, the first 6 cars, all there kind of running those sub 40-second laps, and concluding our top 2 in the standings, the 2 and the 6, Sanchez and Caruth.
These guys can't get away from each other.
I was just going to say, they're running together again. 3 times this year, they've finished within 1 position of each other, and they've raced against each other. They've raced against each other pretty hard. They've had contact on big racetracks trying to get position. Nick Sanchez has the early nod right there in that white number 2 for Rev Racing. Max Siegel on the hood. Gainbridge came on as a big sponsor with them for the remainder of the year. Great sponsor for that Rev Racing team that has Chevrolet involvement, and now a sponsor that will drive them through the rest of the year on that number 6 quarter panel.
And we know as teammates, they learn from each other. But with your teammates, you know, in the Cup Series, are you debriefing? You're talking at the racetrack, and you're learning things from each other. Your crew chiefs all work together as well.
Absolutely, no. It's a pretty tricky dynamic when you're in racing situations. But you know, I feel like personally with my teammates Joey and Ryan, I feel like we have a really good dynamic of balancing strengths and weaknesses. But you know, I think the fun thing about Nick and Raja is that they both have a runway. You know, they've both got opportunities to run, you know, truck races, Xfinity races this year, and you know, I think they've got a future, and to push themselves hard, I think is important because it really shows in their driving, and I think it gets them better faster. I had a similar relationship with Chase Briscoe, you know, as we kind of moved up through the ranks, but so far Corey Heim just outrun everybody. So I think there's a lot of guys trying to catch him right now, and still a pretty big lead.
Absolutely. The number 20 of Corey Heim, the 20-year-old from Marietta, Georgia. Austin talked about a runway. He is ready to launch here at Michigan. Here in Michigan, the horses are out of the gate, 21 laps complete, and we are intently watching this battle for second. Austin Cindric joining us in the booth today. And Austin, these are the cars you've been watching.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you've got two cars that are faster than the car in front of them. You got Raja, I think, is faster than the 2 car, Nick Sanchez, and I think you got Brett Holmes, who's backing up to both of them. And ooh, big moment from Raja there. And in all of this, they're catching lap traffic. So it's a very challenging mix of timing your run to the bottom, because that bottom lane is a lot slicker, it's a lot flatter, but it is a shorter distance around. So having the opportunity to be able to get that pass done, you know, is very, very tricky. You know, as you see, one slip up in traffic for Raja, it really lost a lot of track position. That's going to take him a lot of laps to gain that back.
So he's gaining on the back of the 69 of Scott Melton, who's gone a lap down, but just that little burp in the gas pedal. I talked to Justin Allgaier, former ARCA Series champion, this morning. He said when you get out of the gas at any point on this track, it's a lap and a half to get your momentum back.
So we saw the little wiggle, but then it almost looks like it's continuing, and that's what you're talking about, trying to get that momentum back for the number 6.
For sure. I thought he had an issue there, the way he slowed. The right front appears to be a little bit out of skew, maybe nudged the right front fender. I can't tell from this angle. But guess what? Knock, knock. Here comes Sammy Smith into the top 5 comfortably in that black number 18 TMC Toyota.
Remember, Sammy Smith had a great qualifying effort, but due to an unapproved change, had to start in the back. Didn't take him long to get back up into the top 5. Let's take you back through the field, starting up front. Again, this is number 20, Corey Heim behind the wheel. Corey Heim, a lot of credentials on his list.
Gained almost the second that lap. He's won at Talladega. He's won at Daytona. He finished second in the points to Ty Gibbs last year after running a full season in ARCA. Now splitting his time this year. Doing a great job leading again at a big track in ARCA.
Corey Heim just got a new dog, said today. That's the only thing he's doing away from the racetrack. He has a new dog. That's all I could get out of him that was non-racing.
Yeah, Amber up in the wall here.
Yep, that's Amber Balkin, that number 30.
What a
one of our
tough
full-time
break.
drivers.
3 of the last 5 races, she's ended early in an accident. She was running 8th right now. She had a great qualifying effort in 7th. That Rhett Jones Racing team, that's a home race for them, as Terry Jones is from nearby Ontario, and they were looking for big things today out of Amber to get back on track, and she's in the wall there for a long time already.
Yeah, it's a funny angle. I don't know if it looks like she maybe had a tire go down on corner entry and just kept it up high. So she got in the wall. It'd be interesting to see if we have an angle that's a little further on the straightaway, but I don't think that was late enough in the corner for that to really be something she was involved in.
Yeah, you're taking a look there at the Auto Park at replay. You mentioned her crew chief, Jim. We know a lot of Canadian fans here as well, and she's from Manitoba, 30-year-old. Also driving the number 30 in the wall today here in Michigan.
And she's new to every track. This is her 12th race of the year. She's never been in the ARCA Menards Series before. She just ran 3 West races for Bill McAnally last year, all on short tracks on the West Coast. So it's been a big learning curve for her. But these bigger tracks is where she's had her better performances. Unfortunately for today, another issue there. Trying to get it off the wall. The right front is dinged in. We can see that by the body damage, but that fluid is my biggest concern right now, Austin. Under the front end of that car as she rolled backwards.
Yeah, no, she was running in the top 10 most of the day, so definitely a tough break for Amber, and like you said, really close to Canada here. I bet she's got a lot of friends and family.
Yeah, Amber Balkin, it's unfortunate for her. We know that could be an opportunity for someone like Greg Van Alst running in the top 5 in points as well as we continue to clean up the track. We're going to take a break. Come back, we'll get you continued racing here at Michigan. You're watching the ARCA Menards Series Henry Ford Health 200 at Michigan International Speedway. Corey Heim continues to lead. We are under caution here at Michigan International Speedway in the ARCA Menards Series Henry Ford Health 200. We have turned 26 of 100 laps in this race. Under caution for the number 30 into the wall of Amber Balkin. Corey Heim continues to lead. But we want to go ahead and take a look at this week's Bounty Rookie Spotlight, and we're going to feature the number 6 of Raja Caruth. Let's get to know a little bit more about Raja.
Racing is what I wanted to do since I was little. And 5 years ago, I had a summer job. I ran track full-time, and I got my first iRacing membership. I think sim racing was my only gateway or path into it, and I'm really thankful for the program and Max for picking me, and the pressure I put on myself every day to get better at my craft, the pressure I put on myself to execute on race day. I know the opportunity that I have is very once in a lifetime. That's the only pressure I feel I have. Trying to balance racing as a teammate, but racing like championship competitor has been pretty interesting because we've run up front now, more so than years past as a company, and just kind of having to be smart about racing each other just because it's a long game. You know, it's not chase or playoff racing, it's a season-long points battle. So I'm trying to figure out how to, you know, stay the same through the setbacks, not get too low. I haven't won yet, but we've run second, third, fourth, sixth, led laps, ran up front, been in control of races, everything but a win. So I'm still kind of trying to figure out to manage the kind of mental and emotional aspect of a season that you put in so much of everything into it. So I guarantee you I'm the one that cares about this the most and puts in the most effort.
Here's what I love about racing is every driver has a different journey, a different story. Austin, you've been around racing your whole life, your family. It's everything in your family. He's teaching his family about racing because he just got involved. His dad, Roger, his sister, Leah, they're all learning because he is so invested in it now.
Yeah, I mean, racing is certainly a challenging sport, and it's a challenging sport to give people perspective on, especially, you know, when I went to school, you know, it's not like I can go pick up a basketball and, you know, do the same thing that, you know, Michael Jordan does. You know, it's so hard to understand what this is all about. And, you know, I was certainly fortunate to have, you know, both sides of my family really involved in the sport, so it's fairly normal for me, but you can obviously tell he has a passion for what he's doing, and he's also really hungry. You know, it's fun listening to that interview because that's the kind of drive, that's the kind of determination it takes to make it in this sport, because you have to want it, you have to be willing to put the work in, and I think Raj is someone who's proven that he's willing to do that and has an opportunity to carry that.
How many fire suits? Do you still have a lot of your smaller fire suits when you were racing?
I have every single one of them.
Everything?
Yes.
What do you do with them?
Yeah, is there like a room set up?
I don't have. They're just in my closet at home. Like I nothing cool. Absolutely nothing cool yet. I don't know.
That's
A
what I'm saying.
500 suit,
Plenty
that's
of
got to
time.
go in a shadow box somewhere, right?
It's somewhere.
Just another suit. Okay.
It's somewhere. It's not mine. It's not my suit. That's Roger Penske's fire suit.
10-4.
Austin Cindric is joining us today here in the booth. Mike Massaro down in the pits covering the action for us here in the Henry Ford Health 200. That is the number 6 of Raja Caruth, who we just heard from. Raja Caruth is our points leader, still looking for his first National Series win here in the ARCA Menards Series.
Well, we saw him at the wheel, Austin. That was at speed at Iowa Speedway. He is just feeling the car, and I've been impressed with him. He only ran 5 races last year, but Iowa Speedway last year, like, that kid's got something because he was able to keep that car at speed, didn't lose a spot. He manages the race car, and I think last year their car was not nearly as good on mile-and-a-half racetracks, and he only ran one racetrack this size last year, Kansas Speedway, which he got to go back to in the spring, and that's where we end up in September on the big track schedule for the General Tires Super Speedway Challenge. So getting those reps, now getting 1 truck race with Spire, 3 to go there, some Alpha Prime Xfinity Series starts for him. It's a big deal for Raja, and he credits really getting involved with Chevrolet and giving those opportunities and getting them to notice him and giving those chances to get the Chevrolet sim and get some wind tunnel time with their mile-and-a-half, 2-mile program. It's been huge for Rev Racing in general.
Well, you mentioned Kansas. That's where we're going to be in a couple of months. But where is the ARCA Menards Series going to be? Well, we're going to be here on MAV TV at Springfield, the Illinois State Fairgrounds, coming up on August 21st.
First dirt mile track for Raja Caruth and Nick Sanchez. Neither raced on the dirt mile last year. Should be a lot of fun to watch. See how those point leaders go at it on a Sunday afternoon live here on MAV.
Austin, dirt, thumbs up, thumbs down for you. Do you enjoy it?
I mean, they do say dirt's for growing potatoes, but there's some great races that happen on dirt tracks. I can't say I've put on any of those great races before, but I do love a little loose surface driving for sure.
Okay, in the Global Rally Plus Light.
four-wheel drive is way different than heavy and rear-wheel drive. I can tell you that. I've done my fair share of dirt and gravel and sand, but not too much on a short track.
Yeah, Austin's done global rallycross, road course, sports cars, a little bit of everything here on your path to NASCAR. Okay, the next race for the ARCA Menards series is Watkins Glen, New York. Maybe more your style, more your speed, those road courses?
My ARCA Menards race at Watkins Glen went quite well when I did it. So, I'd say Watkins Glen's pretty fun, and it's any of these racetracks that these drivers can get on that are on the Cup schedule. I think every single one of them has circled because it's experience that you can use in the future. Now, I'm not saying, and I mean, I guess now you can use some experience from Spring Pro. I think that might help at Knoxville or maybe some other places, but Watkins Glen is certainly something that you can really carry throughout your Cup NASCAR Series career.
Not to mention the spotlight. You have other eyes on you when you're sharing a racetrack with the Cup Series.
Absolutely, as we see them all come down pit lane.
This is the competition caution. There's a safety truck still on the racetrack, so we're reaching that lap 30 mark, and here they come. It's a modified live pit stop for these teams, Krista. They get to come to pit road. They all get to stop relative to where they're running on the racetrack. They'll get their spot back, but this is big. This is the first chance in that 35. The first 35 laps are now done. 30 laps, excuse me. They get to change tires under this situation. They have 4 tires laying here, 4 tires for the next race break at lap 70 or thereabouts. It's a big deal. And Daniel Dye looks to be wondering where his pit stall might be. He's going to have to back it up.
This is when you're really glad that none of these count for positions or spots. He's a little lost.
Should we tell him it's stall 15?
Yep. Good.
I see it. He's found it.
And Brett Holmes has found speed. His crew chief, Shane Huffman's been around this series a long time. He's got a lot of knowledge as a driver and a crew chief. He and Brett went to work on this race car. They've been working on it a lot because they're not running full-time in the trucks nor in ARCA with any driver. So seeing what they do out the front windshield of Daniel Dye's Race to Stop Suicide on board. We see the fuel can going in. One of the big rules is you cannot engage the fuel can while the tires are being changed. So under these stops, these teams have a several-minute period of time to get their stop completed and make those changes without having those high-dollar
make those changes
over the wall.
And talk to their crew, find out what's going on. As you see Brett Holmes in that number 23, sponsored by Golden Eagle Syrup. Family, friends on board. Just one of the great stories here in the ARCA Menards series. Welcome back to Michigan. We are under our race break, the first of 2 designated race breaks after 31 laps have been completed. Let's see if we can dial someone up on the radio. Austin Cindric's going to do us the honors here.
Hey, Raja, it's Austin Cindric up in the MAV TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. What's up, Austin?
Watching you will that thing. What'd you learn in the first segment here, and how can you get that number 6 in victory lane?
Honestly, man, this Gabriel and Max Eagle Chevy is really fast. It just, I honestly underdrove it after lap 1, just not being wide open, but I went wide open and then caught right back up. So I'll be a little bit better this time, start off a little bit free, but that's kind of how I like it.
I think every single one of these races I've watched, you've been a little bit sideways, so hang on to it and have fun, dude.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so we got to hear from the driver. That was Raja Caruth in that number 6 talking to Austin Cindric. What else do you know about that team down there, Mike Massaro?
Well, pretty happy with the race car, as you might imagine. Didn't make much of an adjustment. However, they did make a slight chassis adjustment. The crew tells me, however, the adjustment was just to keep up with the changing racetrack. The sun is starting to set a little bit. There's some shadows in certain areas that may not have been there at the beginning of the race. Other than that, 4 tires and fuel for the 6.
All right, Raja told Austin that he's going to try to do a little better in this segment, and we said we're going to segment to lap 70, but we're seeing the number 20 back on pit road, Jim.
Race leader Corey Heim back to pit road, looking at the left side tires, it appears. Making sure they're tight. That's a big deal.
Yeah, they had a really slow pit stop. They were there. I think I was listening to your radio there. It was really close for them to make it back out before their allotted time. So be interested to see what happened there, but gives us something to watch here. Fastest car on the racetrack coming from the back.
And he will not get his spot back, Chris. He'll have to start at the rear because he came in on the designated lap. But when you come back in again, you lose all rights to your spot on the restart if you come back down pit road.
Well, we saw the 43 of Daniel Dye, the 18 of Sammy Smith start the race in the back, and they worked their way up pretty quick. So now, as we go back to, when we come back and go back to green, we're going to see what the number 20 of Corey Heim, he was leading the race, had a slow pit stop, came back down pit road. We'll see what Corey Heim in the 20 can do when we come back to racing at Michigan. Under caution here at Michigan, it was the race break, so it's our first stop of 2 scheduled competition cautions. 34 laps complete of 100 here at Michigan, and a lot has gone on here, Jim, under this pit stop.
That's crew chief Shannon Rush doing the numbers here on the team that was on pit road twice already. He was one of the drivers, one of the several cars that came down pit road more than once, so Shannon Rush will have his work cut out for him. Getting his driver, Corey Heim, back in contention.
I was just going to say, he's the crew chief of the number 20, Corey Heim, one of those cars of 3 who came down pit road twice. Mike, let's learn a little more about that.
Yeah, Chris, I just had a very brief conversation with Shannon Rush to find out exactly why they came back down pit road. He told me they had a lot of difficulty getting the right front wheel off the car when they made the right side change. It took them so much time they were in jeopardy of losing a lap. They had to go, and that forced them to come back down pit road a second time to change left sides. Now, I asked him specifically if he knew why he couldn't get the right front off, and he just kind of gave me a wry smile and said, yeah, I do. It won't happen again. Back to you guys.
One of those crew chief answers.
They tell you stuff. Sometimes they tell you stuff they don't want to tell you, and sometimes they just don't tell you anything.
Tell you stuff with their facial expressions, but not always their words.
So, and really, to pay off the point of these race breaks, these competition cautions, you can't change tires outside of a competition caution during this race. So that was important for them to get those left sides on and lose all the track position. Big time blow for them. We'll see how it comes through.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen to them again.
We said there were 3 cars that came down twice. We mentioned Corey Heim, the number 20 you're seeing there in the General Tire onboard. Also the number 35 of Greg Van Alst. Greg Van Alst drives the number 35. And then the number 12 of D.L. Wilson.
Greg Van Alst, he told me before the race, he said, we have speed, but I don't think I have enough straightaway speed. I got to figure out how to do that. So I think they came back down to make one more adjustment. He's got longtime NASCAR crew chief Jim Long helping him all season long in Charlotte. Greg keeps the car in his shops in Anderson, Indiana, outside of Indianapolis. They collectively got this car back together from Pocono. Pocono, he literally crashed the car. They had 2 weeks to reclip the thing and brought it back here because it's their best piece on these size racetracks. So a lot of work continues for Greg Van Alst, who came in this race 1 point out of 4th in the standings.
And drives himself here back and forth.
Drives the hauler.
Drives the hauler.
Sounds like a racer.
Yeah.
I love
Works
it.
full time. He said, if I have 8 days in a week, I need about 30 hours per day at this point in the summer. He works his own Top Joints Fence company, and he does a lot of work on this race car with his buddies, and his family's way involved as well.
And he's 41 years old, so you think, I mean, he's kind of a veteran, but really kind of new to some of these tracks, a little bit of a rookie last year, right?
Yeah, he had a couple of starts way back when he was 18 or 19. That's half a life ago for him. And he's relied upon these race cars. You got it from Chad Bryant, who had a lot of success with Chase Briscoe as a champion crew chief back in 2016. Chad kept that equipment after Cunningham sold it to him, ran for a few more years. And these cars, and Chad's been able to help him set up to a point, but Chad's also got another job, crew chief and Daniel Dye, and full-time in the GMS racing camp. So a lot goes on with how Jim Long wants the car, how Greg wants the car. They're learning together.
I love all these stories. Let's find another fun one. How about Gus Dean in the 15, the 3rd driver for Venturini Motorsports this week?
He's got 3 top 5 finishes and 3 starts this year. And Gus Dean's done more than just race ARCA. He's raced a little bit in late models, but not a lot lately. He likes to run his mud truck.
His what?
Mud truck.
A mud truck?
2,500 horsepower restricted.
Wow.
E2 2,500 horsepower mud truck. It's called Vengeance. It's a drag. You go one at a time, single runs, but it's not just a drag strip in the mud pile. You go through the mud bog, you go over jumps, then you do a U-turn and come back the other way on the racetrack. You're timed against the clock, and Gus has done that 3 times. He said, I can't wait for the next time to put that beast in the mud.
You need one of those, Austin.
Yeah, that's
next.
about the last thing I need. Imagine that rolling through Mooresville.
If you took a look at some of the fans, it looked like shirts may have been optional at the mud bog.
He wasn't wearing gloves. You know, you think about dirty activities, he's got mud going everywhere, and he decides he's not going to wear gloves.
He's still a bachelor till October. That's a lot more laundry, man. You don't have to worry about a laundry if you don't have gloves on.
I can't say anything. We have a tractor pulling team at our house, right? My husband races tractors.
I tell you what, I like this top 5 here. These guys were racing really hard, and now they're racing for the lead.
And the green flag is out. We are racing again at Michigan in the ARCA Menards Series.
Let's see who made the right adjustments early on here. These top 4 cars were racing in the top 5 before Corey Heim had his issues. He's given the lead up to this great battle on the racetrack in turn 2.
A really good push by Raja there to give Nick Sanchez the lead. So I think those pushes are going to come really, really important on late race restarts.
Big swing to the bottom goes Nick Sanchez, trying to break that stream of air. Brett Holmes stays true to the outside, bringing Sammy Smith with him, and here comes Rajah to the bottom, dancing those left side tires on the white line. This is some good stuff. Rajah's been loose there before, just 2 laps into this run. Holds it true and hangs on to 4th.
Here's where he's just got to tuck up and get that draft and try and get another run at Sammy, as Brett Holmes is already sizing up Nick Sanchez.
They go down into turn 1. You see Brett Holmes kind of tuck under Nick Sanchez there to see if he can make something happen down on the inside.
Daniel Dye and Gus Dean put out a great battle, still deciding who's going to be racing in 5th off of turn number 2. Give it to Dye.
Yeah, Rogers had a bad run off of the corner there. Gives another good opportunity for Daniel to make up another spot. I don't know if he got tight or what happened there, but he kind of shot right up the racetrack.
As you see the onboard here from Daniel Dye's number 43 machine, the Race to Stop Suicide onboard camera. You can see the cars in front of him starting to string out a little bit as they come past the start-finish line. Nick Sanchez, your leader.
And Corey Heim got to start at the back of the lead lap cars on the restart. Look at him come through in that Crescent Tools Toyota. Cuts right to the bottom underneath Dye here for 5th.
Wow, that didn't take long.
But Austin, as you know, sometimes you get a really good run, and then you get to the cars that are as good or faster than you are, and it kind of settles in. They're trying to figure that out right now. Brett Holmes leading Sammy Smith now to 2nd.
Yeah, it all changes in a moment. Nick Sanchez leading the race, and now he's trying to hold on to 2nd place. So this is a really good opportunity for Brett to kind of break the draft and get away as these two are side by side, slowing each other down.
Yeah, Sammy Smith battling there with Nick Sanchez for that 2nd position. Sammy Smith on the inside. Again, Sammy Smith had to start this race towards the back. Didn't take him long to get up to the front. He's a 2-time winner here in the ARCA Menards National Series this year, winning back-to-back races at Berlin and Elko.
Great on the short tracks. He's won some big races. Won the Redbud 400 lap race in the Quartermount Anderson, Indiana for the ARCA Series Super Series this year. He's a big trophy hunter, and he's in this series as much as he can now that he turned 18. He's also got that ride on Saturdays he ran this afternoon with Kyle Busch Motorsports and Joe Gibbs racing together.
Yeah, he turned 18, Mike Massaro, and his calendar filled up quickly. What's happening with the 18?
Yeah, he's been extremely busy, especially this weekend running double duty. We mentioned how he had us go to the back of the field after posting the 2nd fastest qualifying lap. Well, the reason was that his interim crew chief, Matt Ross, who's filling in for Mark McFarland today, noticed that there was a fluctuating voltage issue with the battery. So they changed just about everything out that had to do with the electrical unit, the ECU, the battery, the alternator, the ignition switch, the power switch. Just didn't know exactly what was causing the problem, so had to make all those changes, and they were unapproved, started at the back. But as you can tell, the changes have taken, and he has moved that car toward the front.
And that team's just been so good. Mark McFarland's guys have been intact. The only change this year, Chris Bone went on to become a crew chief in the Xfinity Series. He was the car chief for this team last year. Jordan Irving now has that job with the 18 right here. Sammy's right in the mix.
What are you seeing, Austin? I know you like it.
I tell you what, this draft must be worth a lot, because Nick Sanchez, I thought, was going to get left by Brett Holmes, and he was able to draft right back up to him, really close, tight clear off of turn 2. And I think that gave Sammy Smith a really big draft into turn 1 and gives him a shot to fight for the lead again.
We talk about the draft. There's so much speed, but this is such an aerodynamic track. What do you feel in the race car, Austin, when you're side by side with a driver like that?
Oh, you hear the RPMs go up. You hear the RPMs go up, and you start getting a little excited, a little more excited. And, you know, I think Sammy did the right thing, because he might have had an opportunity to dive to the bottom there, but it would have been a pretty opportunistic move to do it. So he did the right thing, stayed on the outside, followed Nick Sanchez through, and now is a shot to fight for the lead.
This could be a Reese's sweet move right here in this Auto Parker replay, I think, Krista.
Okay, let's take a look at it.
Brett Holmes off of turn number 2.
He's in that 23.
Hanging in there. Watch out for the black 18 and what he does with the number 2 of Nick Sanchez. Right, I'm sorry, that was off of turn 4.
These two cars running side by side give that huge run to the 18 car. Is actually able to help him close up really quickly. And Nick was able to get that really tight clear coming off of turn 2.
I think that is a candidate for sweet move.
I think it is.
You called it, Jim. I think it's hard to understand when you're watching at home, maybe even here at the racetrack, that air becomes almost a competitor out there, and almost you saying or using it to your advantage.
Hunting down the lead, goes to the bottom. This is for the lead of the race. My goodness, Sammy Smith right there. Austin, he's got to taste it. He knows he's got the number 2 figured out. The last 2 laps he's run with him. He's run toast with him. Down the backstretch here, he'll stay even for the moment in the tire tracks.
Yeah, I think right now, if you're Nick Sanchez, you're trying to cover up there, trying to make it hard for him to drive. You see that late arc into the corner kind of covered Sammy Smith off to where he's not going to have as big a run because he had to hesitate the throttle. So still, Sammy's going to have a big run down the front straightaway, but not big enough. You know, you saw the huge run he got with 2 cars in front of him, but just with the 1 car, the moment you pull out, you start to hit that thick air again and slow back down. So I think Sammy's waiting for an opportunity, maybe waiting to be able to pull on the bottom. And this is where he was actually really good in the Xfinity car today. He was able to pull down to the bottom and get a run on people and get that clean air on the nose and get the car turning. So I think that's something that he picked up and really learned how to work that and splitting that seam, running that lane today. And it's given an opportunity to fight for the lead here in the ARCA race.
He's right there, right there. See if he can make it stick.
It's hard to beat that momentum on the outside, but I think as good as he was on the bottom through turn 1 and 2, I think all he wants to do is stay nose to nose coming into turn 1. It'll be interesting to see the shot he's got here as he kind of wiggles to get close to him, get that side draft.
So much fun to watch. Oh, they are side by side.
He's way low on the racetrack here. I think Nick Sanchez is going to have the advantage. But it was really critical for Nick to get that side draft back to him heading into turn 1, because if he didn't, I think that was Sammy's corner. So, but he's got an opportunity to line back up again as we see Corey Heim already running back down Brett Holmes and gonna get himself in position to run for the lead here.
We're going to merge these two boxes together momentarily because this battle for 3rd and 4th and lower right, that's right behind our race leaders off of turn 4 this time. They're getting close to these leaders. As they go side by side, that gives all the advantage to the cars going single file, slipstreaming to them. That's the number 23, Brett Holmes, and the 20 of Corey Heim.
As the sun goes down here, you're going to get a lot more grip. You already heard Rajah talk about how close they were to wide open, and I think as the sun goes down, it's going to get even more so that way. So I think you're going to be able to race closer to each other, and those drafts are going to be even bigger and more important.
Heim tugs it down. Holmes tries to protect. Both go deep into the infield, if you will.
Going to the campground.
Wait for that for later, boys.
It's Michigan. There's always a party in the campground.
This is the pregame show for sure, absolutely. As you see Corey Heim get that pass done and set his sights on Sammy Smith and Nick Sanchez.
And essentially, is that what Sammy Smith is trying to do to Nick Sanchez? That move that Corey Heim was just able to put on Brett Holmes.
Absolutely. Get that run off the bottom, get that side draft, and pull down to the infield, and maybe not that far down there. There's some bumps that you don't want to find down there, but I think that's the move, and we're going to get some lap traffic here, and I think that's going to give Sammy a good opportunity.
Nick Sanchez in just his 34th ARCA Menards Series race, but he's had a really good success ratio on the big tracks. That helped him there. We saw some hesitancy early on by other drivers. Nick has not had that little, hey, I got to hang on, wait till I get through this, right? He went powering through 2 lap cars off of turn 2. He knew how good Sammy was in that spot of the race and holds the lead here.
Yeah, Nick's wins this year have come at Talladega and Kansas. He's a 2-time winner. Sammy Smith following him there in 2nd in the 18. He has 2 wins this year. His are at short tracks, Berlin and Elko. Currently, they're running 1-2 here at Michigan. So he needs to try to do that setup again, right? If he can get up there to Nick Sanchez, Austin, he's going to try to set him up. And turn 1, you think, is where he could make it happen?
Yeah, I would say turn 1's probably the less likely corner, but he seems like he's able to pull it off down there on the bottom. And I think as the sun sets, the easier it's going to be able to run on the bottom there, and the more blocking you're going to have to do if you're Nick Sanchez. You saw him on the front straightaway kind of duck down in the middle of the racetrack, and as you're the trailing car with Sammy Smith, it kind of puts a smile on your face. It's like, oh, I know he sees me, he's thinking about me, he's worried about me, and I think those are the things that are going to keep Sammy from behind if he's able to block that air into the corner here. But as you see again, he dives down to the bottom, gets right on his left rear, gets him loose. Really tight racing, still shoving Nick up the racetrack, had to probably back out of it a little bit. And Sammy's going to get a draft off this lap car, side by side. Lap car doesn't want any part of this.
I think Nick tried to pick him there, but the speed was so different between the Alex Club Blue 03 and these 2 leaders. Sanchez had to give him a lane to run.
I think the outside's still going to prevail here. I think it's going to be a side draft fest all the way down the front straightaway here as you hear Sammy back out of it just a touch, but gets that side draft, gets that corner panel, and it's going to try and pull down away from Nick, but it's going to be interesting to see if he can clear him into 1. This has definitely been a strength, and cue the Jaws music. Here comes Corey Heim.
I could play it.
I was going to do it, and I thought, no, I'm too intrigued by watching him as they come out of turn 2 here on this racetrack.
And if you're Corey Heim, you have the opportunity to control the race here, because when you get this draft, you can pick one of the 2 of the other cars. Who do you want to move forward? Who do you push by the other one? Or do you make them 3 wide?
So interesting, as we're watching the battle for first between Nick Sanchez in the 2 and Sammy Smith in the 18, you're saying the catbird seat is the number 20 of Corey Heim there in 3rd.
Yeah, Nick did the right thing there, putting it on his door and kind of ending that battle, because he saw that 20 car coming up close and knew he had to finish that quickly. So he said good try to Sammy and move on forward, because obviously the 20 car is coming.
They just complete lap 52 of 100, so this race is now over halfway in the book. So let's take a look at our mid-race recap, brought to you by Richmond Water Heaters. And what a race it's been. Corey Heim, he led early, led often.
Daniel Dye, what a great move he had. Those are for position. All but Greg Van Hulst, number 35. They were racing hard, and he blew him off of turn 2.
And we saw the 2, that's Nick Sanchez, the 6 of Raja Caruth, teammates running side by side, also battling each other in the point standing.
Mr. Vengeance himself, Brett Holmes, has made a statement. He's got the lead already in the first half of this race in that blue and white number 23.
Yeah, we talked about Brett Holmes as well. A lot of names have been making the headlines today in this one. That's our mid-race recap. Taking a look also at the Sprecher lap leader, most laps led belonging to Corey Heim. He has led 30 here today, but currently it is Nick Sanchez out front at Michigan.
Just one caution flag. There's only one more built-in timeout for the entire rest of this race. It comes in 17 laps if all things hold for our second competition caution. These guys are really going at it hard, and I think the reason is they got General Tires at lap 35. They're getting four set of General Tires coming in on lap 70, so why not push for everything they can here? No conservation in this middle stage run.
And we're so excited to have Austin Cindric, the Daytona 500 champion this year, the Xfinity Series champion of 2020, also an ARCA Series winner. And you're pointing out the window. What do you see, Austin?
I'm seeing a battle for the lead. Corey Himes has disposed of Sammy Smith, and now he's going after Nick Sanchez. And the one thing I've noticed Corey Himes starting to do is trying to get momentum. He's starting to use some of that traction compound in the higher lane, trying to get a big run going down the front straightaway. As you see him here, he's got right side just on the edge of it, tickling it, trying to get a run. And he's going to get a pretty big draft, a little bit of help having that 18 car following him, but it's worked from some laps and it's worked from others, and that stuff's weird. Sometimes you're able to get it run and nail it just right, but other times it's hard. But I think he's just trying to go where the clean air is and goes to the bottom trying to get air on the nose.
More to this, Nick Sanchez is second in the driver's standings, the number 20 of Corey Heim for Veterini Motorsports. He co-drives that car with Jesse Love. They're third in the standings, or second, the owner's points, 11 points now behind the 18 right behind him. The 18 car has been split by Drew Dowler and this driver, Sammy Smith, here this season.
As we see the 20 sort of inch up on that number 2. Again, Corey Heim had trouble, if you call it trouble, I guess. Yeah, had to come down pit road twice during that mid-race caution. Or, I'm sorry, not mid-race, but one of our race breaks.
Are those hot air balloons?
There is a hot air balloon.
How about that? I saw it on the onboard camera and had to look out the window. I wonder if the drivers are noticing that right now as they're battling for the lead. Oh, there's a hot air balloon. How about that?
Pretty cool. There's a couple of them up there.
It's funny watching Nick Sanchez. His job is just as hard. Obviously Corey's pretty impressive to run him back down, but you got one lap where Corey runs the absolute top of the racetrack, top of where the grip is, and then he goes right back down to the bottom. And that's really hard for Nick to be able to cut it off. Nick was able to guess it right there and see how it affects the 20 car. He's going to have to recover the entire whole front straightaway here.
Give Sammy Smith another chance to draw in on these two leaders. He's following Corey Heim, seeing those line changes, finding some speed behind Corey Heim with that adjusted team. Again, his crew chief, Mark McFarland, back home due to illness. They're doing a great job here, hanging tight in third in Sammy's first ARCA race after his Xfinity Series debut here at Michigan.
And Nick was able to cut him off again there, and that's given Sammy almost a shot to get that quarter panel, but just not enough.
And there's another contributor that could come into play. You were talking about as the sun sets. As we were looking at the hot air balloons, the moon is out in the sky, so we know that sun is setting. You said that's going to change this racetrack as well.
Yeah, it's just going to get more grip, a little more downforce, cool the tires off. Fall off's not going to be as much. So I don't know how much fall off these guys have in these race cars, but it's got to be some. I think you watch a guy like Brett Holmes. He kind of faded at the beginning of the run, and now he's kind of making a surge back towards the leaders and kind of leaving the guys behind him. So I think that's something that's pretty critical to getting this bottom lane to work. As you see Corey Heim still trying to get a little bit of that quarter panel, but turn 2 is just really hard to make it happen.
Heim gave it a look. It's for the lead. We're looking out the front windshield of a driver who started on the pole, gave up the lead by coming to the pits twice, had to come from the back, and here he comes. Back at it again at Nick Sanchez for the lead.
So he picks that high lane. You heard him be able to commit to throttle really, really early, and he's going to try and bank on having a run down the front straightaway here. The tough part here is, the leader has perfectly clean air, so, Nick is able to keep a lot of throttle in the race car, but that draft and that momentum off the top is pretty big. He gained more than what he had before he came in the corner. So I just don't think the bottom here is quite good enough. Sammy Smith has been able to make it work the best, but obviously he doesn't have the pace of these two.
We saw while you were talking the recent Michigan winners. none of those names are in this race, so we won't have one of them today.
But all but one are full-time in the NASCAR National Series. This is an important race to make a statement saying, I am good enough to race more of the tracks this big and this fast. I can handle this. I can win. Michael Self had his share of wins here in the series, now back in Trans Am. But the other 4 drivers, the most recent winners here, they're all full-time NASCAR National Series drivers.
And when you're Nick Sanchez, I mean, you want that opportunity to move up into the next couple series and racing trucks, racing Xfinity, and racing quality equipment. And you're watching him race a guy that has done a lot of great stuff in the truck series already, you know, even racing on a part-time schedule. So if you're able to duke it out with a guy like Corey Heim and show your stuff and be able to lead the race, control a race, I think that says a lot about Nick and where he's at and where he wants to be.
And I think, too, we talked about the spotlight when you're racing in a Cup track. This is a Cup Series weekend. Austin, you're going to race tomorrow in the Cup Series. You're watching this race. Other drivers are in their motorhomes watching this race. You're trying to turn heads and let everyone know that you're ready for the next level at some point.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what's happening in the driver-owner lot right now. There's nothing better on TV than watching a race. And as you see Corey Heim, he's just not getting the opportunities in traffic, but absolutely it's a perfect platform on these weekends. I'll be honest, when I ran in ARCA Menards, you know, I only ran races that were on National Series schedules in NASCAR. You know, I went to Iowa, I went to Pocono, I went to Chicagoland, Kentucky, Kansas. Those are the racetracks that you're going to have to be good at to be, you know, racing on Sundays, and I think that's the best strategy for these guys, and it's the first platform that these drivers have to race on tracks this big. You know, talking about Raja and a lot of these guys who are Sammy Smith, guys who don't get to run on these big tracks. The only chance you get, the first chance you get in ARCA Menards is see another dive down to the bottom. Can he clear him? Keeps his foot in it. Crossover move here. See if he can get the quarter panel. This is going to give Sammy Smith a chance.
Great move by Corey Heim to the inside. He went in turn 1. Now he's got a battle with Sanchez down the backstretch. The lead, could it be the pass that makes a difference here? We are closing in.
Oh, he's tight on his door. Corey did not like how long it took him to pass for that lead, so he's trying his best to keep it. I think if Corey's able to keep it on the top here, but Sammy's going to have a huge run down the front straightaway. Let's see if he keeps the same patience as last time.
They're just trying to stay off each other, feeling that air, trying to get the air, steal the air off the other car. This is exciting at Michigan.
And look at these lap times. I mean, all the top 6, all within just a few tenths of a second of each other.
Seems like he's rolling past Nick, no problem. And here comes the outside lane. Austin, you talk about that advantage he has, the momentum he has on the top side. There goes that number 2 Chevrolet. Since they got the chance to work with Chevrolet, Nick Sanchez won Kansas, finished 8th at Charlotte, and was runner-up at Pocono. They were really happy with their mile-and-a-half stuff, and it's showing here again today for Rev Racing.
Nick's going to get the pick off the lap car as well, so he's going to lose a few spots. Good opportunity for Sammy to kind of thread the needle through a couple lap traffic there, and get the pass coming up for the lead. A little replay here. See what Corey Heim did to get this done.
This is going to be a good one. This is an auto park it replay. Let's watch what Sammy Smith and crew were able to do here.
Stayed as long as possible in the throttle and took as short of a track distance as possible, and even washed up. Did a bit of a slider there. Even I don't think they're lifting off the gas much, but it was a perfect move, able to get it done and position himself well for turn 3 to where he could really control Nick's line.
And Nick's line really was different off of turn 2 already, and as he pinched it to the bottom, he lost some track time once Corey got clear. That's how Sammy Smith was able to gather in so quick in that black number 18.
There's a lot going on that auto park it replay.
Worth watching over and over and over again. Great competition. Corey Heim, the seasoned veteran, really, when he comes down to it. He's not that old, but he's got a really good run now on that number 20 for Venturini. Venturini Motorsports has won here just 3 times. Michael Self went to Victory Lane. They've raced in this series full time. The 18 team, they won the last 2 races here at Michigan, and you got Rev Racing building their notebook with brand new race cars this year. I'd say all 3 are worthy of racing for the victory here today. A great performance thus far.
So take a look through the field. This is the future of NASCAR. You have the 20-year-old Corey Heim driving the number 20, like you said, Jim, for Venturini Motorsports, currently back in the lead here at Michigan.
Lap 65, this is the time. Corey, what do you have in your car? What do you need in your car? Leading here by just under a second.
That's Drago's dad. That's the name of his new puppy, by the way. Drago.
Drago. Is that a Game of Thrones
I'd ask
reference?
where it came from. I have no idea. It was Drago or Drago, but I
think that's a Game of Thrones reference. I don't think Sammy Smith cares about it, though.
He probably doesn't.
He wants to figure out how to make his car better. To Jim's point, tell his team, tell his crew chief, I guess his engineer this weekend, about how to make his car better. What does he need to be able to fight Corey Heim? You know, I think Corey Heim's obviously shown he's got the dominant car, but I like Sam's versatility. He's able to move around the racetrack a little bit. I think the only thing Corey's got in his back pocket, he's able to run that higher line as well and give himself versatility in traffic.
There's Nick Sanchez in the 2, currently running 3rd. Nick Sanchez racing for the championship here in the ARCA Menards Series as well. Full-time driver, 21 years old, out of Miami.
Interesting there. I just saw Nick Sanchez with his hand out the window. He wasn't waving at anybody. Is he trying to get air in the cockpit, or maybe there's a communication issue there? He's trying to communicate with the team on the front stretch. No, hand out the window again, just get a little air in there. They seal off these cars an awful lot. And Nick, I know, talked about how hot these cars can get. I've seen them just pouring with sweat after Talladega, finishing well there. But it takes a lot out of these drivers, and it's been a long day. We got here in the morning, hot afternoon, waiting for the Xfinity Series race to follow through, and we see Nick with the hand out the window once more on the backstretch. I think it's about getting air in there, Austin. It can get pretty stifling in there at certain points, can it?
Well, he's got a guy in front of him who's already ran a full race today, so that's a good motivator for him to get his stuff together for sure.
Nick Sanchez's teammate is Raja Caruth in the number 6. He was our Bounty rookie spotlight driver, still looking for his first career ARCA Menards Series win, but leading the points.
This is only his 17th race of the year, 17th race ever. He ran 5 last year, a full season this year for Raja. It's really been a learning experience for him. And as I mentioned, talking to those Chevrolet guys, getting those chances, that has really taken him to where he's focused on the ARCA car. He can focus on his next opportunity, not really working the phones, if you will. Some of that stuff's been laid in there, so to let him focus on driving and doing well at any track.
We heard in his rookie spotlight feature, he's really only been driving for a few, he got an iRacing and simulator, and that's where he kind of learned about it and fell in love with it.
And Max Siegel and the Rev Racing team, they've done a lot of development with a lot of different drivers, Kyle Larson included, Bubba Wallace included. Raja is the latest example of a driver that came to them with just iRacing experience, and I need a shot, and they said, you're our guy. Legends cars, late model stocks at Hickory. Let's do this right, get you some ARCA sniffs.
Yeah.
Full East schedule last year, and now he's here full-time in this series and getting all his NASCAR national chances.
Daniel Dye in the 43 out of Florida took a trip up to North Carolina to check out the race shop, hang out for a little bit this week. Also raced a late model down in Florida, so he's been busy getting ready to start college as well. So he's going to take some classes at Daytona State College, whenever he gets the time to sign up for him, that is.
He'll be smarter than me by the end of it then.
Hey, great rebound by this team. They're running 5th. We talked about that issue they had today. Very little track time for the first time here at Michigan. Practice issue with the right rear tire going down. Mike Massaro told us the right front went down during qualifying was this morning. Chad Bryant and that team really did a nice job getting that car together to run 5th here.
And the yellow is out. That is our scheduled competition caution at lap 70. So this is when the drivers will come down for those modified pit stops, able to take on fuel, put on the tires, and most importantly, maybe talk to their crew chiefs about some adjustments for this final 30-lap stretch here at Michigan. Beautiful day here at this racetrack. If you don't have a race car, maybe you can travel like these guys do in a hot air balloon. We're going to go a little faster, maybe 180 miles an hour when we come back racing in the ARCA Menards Series.
The ARCA Menards Series is brought to you by Sioux Chief, America's manufacturer of plumbing, drainage, supply, and support products. Lucas Oil, keep that engine alive. Sprecher Brewing Company, Milwaukee's original craft brewery. And by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Reese's, not sorry.
Taking a look at our General Tire Super Speedway Challenge. This is one of 7 races on the season that falls under the Super Speedway Challenge tracks, right? The big tracks, Jim.
Nick Sanchez split the middle, won at Talladega. He came back and won at Kansas. And by the way, Austin Cindric was in the booth for both of those wins for Nick Sanchez.
Ooh.
That's good luck for him. Brandon Jones put it on him. And then Taylor Gray at Pocono Raceway overcame a pit road penalty, took too long on pit road. That played to his benefit. Came to pits before others did, got his track position back, and won the race. First time in a super speedway for Taylor. Great job by him.
Taylor Gray, Brandon Jones not in this field, but those other drivers who won, Corey Heim, Nick Sanchez, they are here. So we'll have to see what happens as you see the Speedway Challenge owners' points. That's how they break down by car number.
Notice the difference in points. Not many. It's finishing positions only in the races that are designated as those 7 General Tire Super Speedway Challenge races.
And so what makes the ARCA Menards Series so fun, you have those races within the races, all those different ways for these drivers to have a little competition and bragging rights. Of course, the biggest bragging rights go to the winner of this race, the Henry Ford Health 200 at Michigan International Speedway. We're going to get you ready for the final lap segment as Corey Heim continues to lead. Back here in Michigan, some of the drivers getting ready to school the competition. Let's take a look at one of our features outside the racetrack. Mike Massaro has more.
The University of Northwestern Ohio has educated many folks who have since graduated and gone on to working in the automotive field. But what about becoming a racer? Tim Monroe is just that. He's in the ARCA Menards series. How did you end up at the University of Northwestern Ohio?
So 2018, beginning of the year, racing my dirt mod in Illinois. Kenny Wallace was sponsored by Uno at the time. Decided to look up the school. And didn't have anything else really going, so I decided to go over. Second day I was over there, heard about the race club thing, and got onto the team, worked for them for 2 years, and then because of my dirt background racing, Andy ended up giving me an offer to start driving.
It put you on this path. How's it helped you?
It's helped a lot. I mean, without him, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be running ARCA. I wouldn't even have considered to run this series. I mean, I was content running my dirt cars until now because, never really thought about it.
Now Tim Monroe is going to attack the Michigan International Speedway, but he's really looking forward to the race 2 weeks from now at Springfield, which he considers his home track.
Thank you, Mike. Always cool to learn a little bit more about our drivers in the field. Tim Monroe, 22 years old, from Elmwood, Illinois, driving that number 10. We're going to get you ready for the final 25 laps here at Michigan. We've seen a little bit of everything. We have talked about a lot of different names in this 21 driver field today, Jim.
What has Sammy Smith done on that pit stop? I'm interested to see if this 18 can fire off, because Corey Heim had a great start from the outside of the front row on the initial start. I'm seeing if Sammy Smith could put his name in headlines here. I'm excited to see what that team did, minus their crew chief today, what changes they made, how can they fire off the bottom here. It's a critical moment in the race for Sammy Smith.
And I want to see who the best pusher on this restart is. I think that's going to be the catalyst, who's going to be able to control this race and be able to hold off second place, because the draft's going to come into play. They've all got new tires, but I think which one of those Rev teammates is going to be pretty critical for whoever's leading this race by the time we get into turn 3.
Those Rev teammates, the 6 of Raja Caruth, the 2 of Nick Sanchez, they are the pushers as Sammy Smith in the 18 and Corey Heim are up front. Green flag back.
Who the best pusher on this restart is. I think that's going to be the catalyst, who's going to be able to control this race and be able to hold off second place, because the draft's going to come into play. They've all got new tires, but I think which one of those Rev teammates is going to be pretty critical for whoever's leading this race by the time we get into turn 3.
Those Rev teammates, the 6 of Raja Caruth, the 2 of Nick Sanchez, they are the pushers as Sammy Smith in the 18 and Corey Heim are up front. Green flag back in the air. We are racing in the ARCA Menards series at Michigan.
Really good push by Nick Sanchez, easily getting Sammy Smith the lead there. Seemed like the outside lane just wasn't quite as organized. He's going to get himself clear as well. It's going to be a good run into turn 3.
Sammy Smith in that number 18 black machine with the gold numbers alongside. Already a 2-time winner this year. He raced in the Xfinity Series already today at this track. Doesn't look very tired, looks hungry, but look at that. The number 2 of Nick Sanchez.
Got a huge push off the front bumper of the 20 car, able to get himself easily clear into turn 3 and 4. And he's had a pretty good chance to see what his car's like in clean air and control the race, but he's going to have to hold him off for over 20 laps.
I noticed Nick Sanchez hold off Corey Heim by fanning out on the initial start. He's doing everything he can from the front here in the white number 2, but Sammy Smith dips to the bottom now.
Don't forget about Corey Heim in that number 20. He's been strong here all day.
Nick was able to keep the wood down and get in front of Sammy and cut his air off, and really had to back out of the gas. Unfortunate for him, but Corey Heim's going to be able to try and get a run and try and fight for the lead here again.
That weave down the backstretch, intentional to break that draft. We've seen it at the Indy 500 many, many times. We see it on the big tracks. So here at Michigan, it plays well for these Ilmore engines and these ARCA Menards Series platform.
Talk about the air, the draft. We also saw that glare from the sun. That's going to come into play in these final 23 laps as well.
Corey's got room to work too. He's got a pretty big gap to the third place battle behind, so he's able to make sure, trying to get himself clear into 1. Try to throttle up in there again. Just barely got himself clear off of the nose of Nick Sanchez. Able to do that same move again, try and get the lead.
For the second time, he does the crossover in turns 1 and 2. It works again for the second time for the Crescent Tools driver, the number 20. Heim back to the point.
Corey Heim, 20 years old, driving that number 20, was second here in this race last year, finished second to Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs won the Xfinity Series race today.
Krista, we've seen some races here at Michigan that have been maybe 1 or 2 lead changes. This is an awesome performance by these ARCA Menards Series teams, really going after it. Again, Sanchez, just his second year racing in this series, doing everything he can, and Corey Heim doing so many good things right, including breaking that draft just as they enter turn 1 for a change.
Yeah, if you're Nick, you're trying to get that momentum back. You're trying to get that draft, and obviously Corey's trying to break that draft. I think Nick will have another shot at it. here looking how big the draft is.
So cool to have Austin Cindric, the Daytona 500 champion, along with us here on MAV TV today, bringing you the race from Michigan.
He was going to go to save big money at Menards down the road, but he elected to stay with us and have dinner while we're watching the race.
But you can
together.
still save big money at Menards.
You can always save big money at Menards. He's got a pretty good run here. I don't think it's going to be enough to materialize into something, but I think early in the run, the whole corner entry into turn 1 is in the shade, so it's going to be the most grip as possible that Nick's going to be able to have to make this line work. I think it's been pretty critical for these guys to keep air on the nose to keep the front working.
Just 20 laps to go in Michigan as the 20 car leads.
Battle for 6th. The 15 of Gustine had it. Rajat Karuth made the pass in that Gamebridge Chevrolet. 6th and 7th on the racetrack. Gustine has finished no worse than 5th in his 3 prior starts this season in the ARCA Menards Series for Venturini Motorsports.
And Gustine is a 2-time winner in this series.
Yeah, he's won at Talladega, 2.66-mile racetrack, and a 3/8-mile bull ring in Elko, Minnesota. Those are his 2 victories here. After many seasons racing full-time, went full-time trucks in 2019, and Gustine's best finish that year was right here at Michigan, finished 13th for Young's Motorsports.
And that move down there, you see in that lower square, the 15 on 6, he tried it down there in turn 1. That's that kind of magic spot again. You talked about Austin down there in the shade right now.
Yeah, just not able to quite get the pass done, but I'm sure Raja wasn't gonna let that pass back happen easily, because he restarted in the second row and really had a shot. I felt like to at least control who was the leader or be able to put himself in position to run up front, but it doesn't seem like he's faded a little bit as the race has gone on, as the track's probably changed a little bit. So I'm sure he's pretty hungry to catch back up to that top 5.
So you've got another situation here. We've got Raja with a cup spotter, Chris Lambert. We've got a very experienced spotter in Britt Anderson working with the number 15 team. How important are cup spotters like Austin, when you were doing some ARCA racing or Xfinity when you first got going, to have that kind of leadership on top of the roof like these guys have today?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like obviously in the ARCA Menards series, there's a lot of young guys, not just from a crew chief and driver perspective, but young guys on the team. And I think those Cup Series spotters are guys that have a lot of experience, work at a very professional and high level, are actually able to bring some calmness to what happens in these ARCA Menards teams. So, and I think it gives a certain opportunity for a little bit of driver coaching as well. These spotters work with some of the best drivers in the world, and I think through my career I've been able to have feedback from those guys based off of what they learn with their Cup drivers. So I think it's a great opportunity for these drivers to process that information as if they would if they're racing on Sunday.
Yeah, a lot of teenagers, a lot of youth up there up front. Looking down the chart there, it looks like Gustine's maybe the veteran in those top 7-8 drivers at 27 years old. Brett Holmes, 25.
This is his 87 start for Gustine, and what a move Brett Holmes made on Sammy Smith, who restarted this race on the front row. Up to 4th goes Holmes, and that golden syrup number 23.
And he would be a fun one to watch, because remember, we talked about this at the start of the show. Brett Holmes racing for a little bit of redemption. So many laps led here in 2020. That's the year he won the ARCA Series Championship. Couldn't get it done. Said this is one he's had circled on his calendar.
Just a great run by that team. Again, not racing full-time in any series. And here's another good battle. These are 2 full-time teams. Sammy Smith in the car for the rest of the year. And that's your point leader, Rajat Karuth in the number 6. Right now, it's a 2-point difference before the race started. But Karuth now is 4 positions behind his teammate. He could lose the point lead if he doesn't get up and go and pass his teammate Nick Sanchez here in the late going.
But he doesn't just want that points lead. He wants that win. The drivers ahead of him, Corey Heim, Nick Sanchez, Daniel Dye, Brett Holmes, they've won races in the ARCA Menards Series. Sammy Smith as well. Rajat Karuth still looking for his first National Series win. There is nothing like winning here in the race. As the yellow is out.
Scott Melton damage in the right rear of that Kimmel Racing Toyota. Big time damage. Rockford, Michigan's Scott Melton back for his second race after injuries at Talladega. Ran Pocono, finished that race in 11th, and here is some damage from the number 69 machine. That looks to be a whole lot of damage for that driver.
I can't tell which end hit in first, but obviously not a great opportunity for these guys, but an opportunity for us to watch another fun restart.
That's true.
But unfortunate for Scott and that whole team.
Unofficially 13th at the time of this incident to bring out just the 3rd caution of the race here at Michigan. I am thinking this is now time to go. You know what you had now. You've got enough heat in the tires. Clean them up. That restart's going to be everything.
It's go time. And you saw that push. That push was everything. Nick Sanchez gave himself a shot at the lead by being a good pusher and not only pushing the leader clear but himself clear, and was able to get a big run and take the lead. And I think all the drivers are kind of realizing that. I'm sure Roger Caruth would rather have that restart back and have the chance to do that back again, but Corey Heim doesn't like this. He was able to pull out to almost a 2-second lead there, and I think this is something that's going to give one of these guys a shot to run that 20 car down and put a move on him.
I wouldn't go anywhere, Krista, because this restart will likely determine the car who gets clean air first, and that's going to be huge. Nick Sanchez won Talladega because he was the first car to the finish line as the race ended. He made a really daring move. He only led 1 lap. At Kansas, however, his first time in a car that Chevy was involved in, he led 42 laps. He knew how critical. He still talks about how important clean air is, and he'll restart this race next to a race leader here, Corey Heim.
You told me not to go anywhere. You're not letting me go anywhere.
No, I tethered you right to this desk. Actually, it's the headphone cord. It's not me doing anything crazy.
But you at home, don't go anywhere.
No.
We just don't know what's going to happen. And it's, we race 100 laps. These are long laps at Michigan, and it could all come down to one position, where you are, and one move that you make on this restart.
I am not a betting man, but if I was, I would be willing to bet our Reese's Sweet Move of the race has yet to happen.
Oh. We've given you a couple of nominees, so we'll have to see what happens here on this restart. We didn't know we were going to have another restart because the caution came out for that number 69. We have another one. Mike, what are you watching down there?
Well, I'm paying attention to this restart as well. That's because early this morning in the drivers' meeting, ARCA officials made it a point to address all the crew chiefs and the drivers about restarts. They said last week they were horrible. They saw too many games being played on restarts, guys laying back, things like that. They want this restart to be proper, and it could be critical. It could determine the winner of this race. And Austin, how is the restart supposed to work here in ARCA?
Well, as a driver that doesn't race full-time in ARCA, I can't answer that question with the complete amount of truth. Maybe Jim would be able to hit on that, but I think from this standpoint, you got to be able to go. It's go time, and being able to get that push, like I said, and obviously the leader has to launch first. But and the last time we saw Corey Heim control a restart, he launched really, really early and caught a lot of guys sleeping. I'll be interested to see how that plays out again.
What's happening down on pit road right now?
Sammy Smith restarted this race at lap 70 on the front row. He dropped back to 5th. They're bringing that number 18 down pit row. We saw Hot Rod with the wrench in the window. We also see them clearing off the nose. They have the benefit. Under this caution, if they beat the pace car back out, by rule, lead lap cars align first. Any lead lap cars that pitted line up next. They line up ahead of the lead lap, ahead of the lap down car. So as long as Sammy Smith makes it up back out, I believe only 10 cars are on the lead lap, so he'll realign 10th here with that adjustment. A little more time on pit road. One more adjustment for that team. Decided to give up, 6th or 7th? They were drifting pretty far back. This is their crack at it. This is what they did to make a big swing at it to get back in the front of this race.
And they'll have 12 laps to determine what's going to happen here in this moment. But so you think it's a smart move? Smart move as long as he beats the pace car out.
You know, Austin, when the car's ill handling, you got to do something. And he knew he was not in a winning position. So that was a great move on their team. Let's see if they made the right call. I think it was a half turn in the right rear window.
Yeah, they must have been fading pretty hard, or maybe they made an adjustment they really didn't like, or maybe they went the wrong way with an adjustment on a stop. That would obviously be something to understand or know a little bit better on, because you had to obviously pull a car out of contention. It's going to be back on the lead lap, but you're going to have to pass some cars, and it's going to be you'd be hard-pressed to say you're going to have a shot to win the race, with how fast the 20 car is, but you never know. But obviously they're dropping back pretty hard and gives them a shot to go back at it again.
Okay, let's see if Mike can give us a little bit more insight on that 18.
Austin's spot on with his analysis there. They did go the wrong way on their adjustment. They initially took a round out of the track bar and made an air pressure adjustment, 4 tires and fuel, because the car was too tight. Didn't feel like that worked, so they came back down, went back on the track bar adjustment, also put some tape on the grills. So, yeah, spot on with your analysis, Austin. Thanks.
And think about this. Mark McFarland knows Sammy's tone. What do you need on the car? He asked him at lap 65. He asked that the crew chief's not here to ask him that. What do you need in that race car? So now the team's interpreting. We lost that translator in the crew chief asking Sammy, who's been with him all year and last year in the ARCA Menards Series East. It's a big difference for them to get it right.
All right, if I'm Corey Heim, I'm Nick Sanchez. Who is behind me pushing? Who's going to give me this lead? Who's going to be my best friend right now?
This is the moment.
This is the moment. I don't know if we're going to get another restart, neither do these guys, and this is what's going to define everyone's race for sure.
Who wants a steak dinner, boys? Who's going to push who first?
So they're coming out of turn 4. Corey Heim in that 20. Number 2 is Nick Sanchez. They have 43 of Daniel Dye and the 23 of Brett Holmes right behind The green flag is out for the final handful of laps at Michigan.
Corey Heim got the jump, but the bottom lane's a lot more organized, and big push coming from Daniel Dye. Gets him clear. Almost clears himself.
He wiggles by getting to the backside of the two of Sanchez.
And think of how hungry Daniel Dye is. We know he has one career win, but he hasn't had a win this season, correct? He's had a lot of bad luck this season.
One win last year on the short tracks, but it's a full-time effort for Daniel Dye, a learning experience. He's going to second in that number 43.
If you're Corey Heim, you've got steam coming out your ears. You've already lost 2 spots again on this restart and trying to make it back up. So Corey's got to make really quick work here to catch back up to where Nick is.
And he has not raced around Daniel Dye all day today. So Dye's car, we talked about it being hurt early on in the day. It's responded. It's running well. He got the push to his driver ahead of him from the second row, and Dye's now squaring off and edging out. But I think Corey Heim is going to just get back into rhythm quickly. He's got less than 10 laps now to get in position in that number 20. He'll get to the bottom this time.
And we're watching those 3 cars up front, but look at who's in 4th. Gus Dean at 15.
Corey Heim in the wall.
Now he has steam out of his ears, Austin.
Yeah, more ways than one. He's going to lose a lot more spots, and this is great news for Daniel Dye, because I think you're looking behind him, seeing that 20 car, and you're not focusing on the leader. And this is a big opportunity. Ooh.
Corey Heim into the back of the 23 of Brett Holmes.
Losing a lot of time.
Slides up into the outside.
So Holmes is running his own line on the bottom, and I'm just said, I got to have the bottom, and here I go. And man, that closing rate was really, really quick.
Yeah, I wonder if any of that off of turn 2 was with Brett Holmes there. I wonder if there's more than just a single car incident there. But that's great news for Nick Sanchez and Daniel Dye. They're going to get to race it out here for the lead. See a replay here. 20 car hitting the wall.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the auto park it replay. We're watching for that number 20.
Just got airtight. Just got slipped up behind the 43 cars, staying in the gas, being stubborn, and got in the wall. That's a tough spot to be in, because you need that run coming on the back straightaway.
Brett Holmes is 2 cars behind him at the time. Just close racing here in the closing moments at Michigan.
Just 8 laps to go. Nick Sanchez, the number 2, out front. Daniel Dye trying to run him down in the 43.
This is definitely the best the 43 car has been all race. Even after that second segment, they seem to really turn on a little bit. I don't know if it's the sun going down or they're making the right adjustments. They've had 2 opportunities to work on it. They've clearly needed to work on it since they unloaded, and seemed to be more and more speed for Daniel Dye. And now a shot to win the race, a legitimate shot with Nick Sanchez, and I don't see the 15 car running those guys down, as he's already got pressure from Sammy Smith. So I think it's a two horse race right now.
Yeah, we wondered how long it would take Sammy Smith to get back up front after coming down pit road to make that to go back on that adjustment. Sammy Smith up to 4th, chasing down Gus Dean for that 3rd position.
Split in the middle here. Is that possible at Michigan? Nope, goes low. Great racing here. Corey Heim takes 2 for 1 in turn 2.
Oh. Wow. Kept his foot in it again. I don't think he got himself clear, but 15 definitely lifted for him there. That was a tight spot, but really critical pass for Corey Heim to be able to pull off to even have a shot here.
What just happened? Corey Heim wills his way. Now he's trying to chase down Daniel Dye. He's going after Nick Sanchez. We're on board with the Race to Stop Suicide camera in the 43 of Daniel Dye.
He's got a good run, too.
Great run by the 18-year-old out of DeLand, Florida, in his first full season in the ARCA Menards Series. His home track, Daytona. He finished 3rd there. That's one of his best finishes this season. Yes. If he runs second, it'll be the second time, only the second time this year in 11 races for Dye.
Yeah, he was second at Phoenix, had a great run going, was in contention to win, had to settle for second, kind of had his head hanging a little bit after that race. Has had some bad luck, coming off a 4th place finish at IRP, 5th place at Pocono. They've been close.
Sanchez is rolling the top. Dye has to dig where the leader's not. He goes low here.
Nick has been driving out of his mirror for the last hour. That kid is doing work, but look who has shown back up with 5 to go. Corey Heim, fastest car of the day. He's angry. He wants it, man. He gave it up, and he's still able to climb back up, and I think this is going to make Daniel's job a lot harder of trying to pass Nick Sanchez.
Corey Heim just ran his fastest lap of the entire race that time around with 5 to go.
Business is picking up. Dye picking the outside, trying to get a run now. I think he's a little bit concerned about having a car behind him, as Corey Heim's just looking to get his quarter panel, not enough, but I think it's going to be able to give the 43 car a really big run down the front straightaway, having that second car behind him.
Nick Sanchez leads him past the start-finish line. He has Daniel Dye chasing with Corey Heim just behind. If you're a Nick Sanchez fan, you're still in the game. If you're a Daniel Dye fan, yep, you've got a chance. Don't count out Corey Heim. Let's not count out Sammy Smith, Gus Dean. We've talked about a lot of different players today.
Boy, Heim just threw it off a turn 2 there. I thought he's in the wall again. He kept it off it, and he has got a good run down the backstretch, running in third right now.
Yeah, he's got to get around Daniel here in the next 2 or 3 laps to give himself a chance, because I think those 2 cars running too wide are going to slow each other down. So as you see, Sammy Smith is still in the game here. Whatever adjustment they made on that stop is certainly helping him, and it's keeping Corey pretty preoccupied as we come here with just 3 laps to go.
Who is going to make the move of the race? Is it Nick Sanchez trying to play defense here? He's got to block top and bottom this time in turns 1 and 2.
That's another great example of Nick just driving straight out of his mirror. Corey was almost able to get that quarter panel. He's got to do it within the next couple laps if he's want to get a shot here at the leader.
And we've been calling the race like this really from the start. This has been an awesome race with a lot of different players up front, a lot of different strategy and moves. With just 3 laps to go, it is Nick Sanchez, the 21-year-old from Miami, leading the race as they come out of turn 4. Nick Sanchez across the line first, but look at Corey Heim.
So Nick Sanchez cut off the air of that 43 car, and he had to back out of it, which has given Corey Heim the ability to have momentum, get a run on the front straightaway. This could come down to the last lap. Nick was able to take the air away again there from the 20 car. He's got about a lap and a half to be able to formulate a run here, as he got another big draft from the 43 car. I think Corey's still going to have a chance, one more chance at it.
So Austin, you said Corey Heim had to get by Daniel Dye in the next couple laps. He just did. He was able to do that. Now he's going after Nick Sanchez, but is Daniel Dye out of this?
My heart is beating. I can only imagine what Nick Sanchez's heart is doing at 1 lap to go, trying to break the draft, swerving back and forth. Huge run by the 20 car here. Doesn't know if he needs to go to the top or the bottom. Corey's going to try and keep his foot in it on the bottom. Not enough to get the quarter panel. See if he has another shot into 3 and 4. That was good defense by Nick.
Did Nick Sanchez do enough going to turn 1? That second tuck to the right. Is that the winning move of the race? Oh, Heim is off the pace. Here comes the 43 of Daniel Dye now. Big moves late in the going here at Michigan.
Seems like Corey put it all on the line there, running to the bottom of the racetrack. That's what he felt was his only shot there to win the race. But coming off of turn 4, Nick Sanchez coming to the checkered flag again. Congratulations.
He's been driving out of his mirror. Now it's throttle down. Nick Sanchez is your winner at Michigan.
What a race. That was fun.
You said your heart was beating.
My heart rate is high. Let's see what the watch says. That was awesome.
What does it say? Tell us. What does it say? What's your heart rate right now?
It says 62, but I think it's a lot higher.
For these guys,
yeah.
They have a winner in Nick Sanchez. 1 year ago, he finished 3rd in this race behind the season dominators. Ty Gibbs and Corey Heim finished 1-2 ahead of him. They won the most races last year. Sanchez is making a championship statement here today, winning at Michigan, taking over the point lead.
He wins at Talladega. He wins at Kansas. The 21-year-old from Miami has number 2 alongside on the door. He's number 1 today.
The ARCA Menards series is brought to you by Richmond Water Heaters, the water heater experts.
Auto Park It. The future of parking is here. See it at autoparkit.com.
And by Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive.
Back at Michigan, it is a 21-year-old, the 21-year-old from Miami, the race winner at Michigan, Nick Sanchez, and Mike Massaro is down with him.
You could see his fire suit just absolutely dripping wet. He was working hard inside that race car. And a lot of that work happened in the closing laps. What were they like?
I mean, it was all defense. My team brought me a really fast car, but we were not the fastest one. So we had to capitalize on restarts like we always do. And we did that and just played defense and took the air away from everyone.
You in fast racetracks, it just seems like the perfect combination. We spoke earlier today. You talked a little bit about the championship race, saying, well, we've had some rocky times, and we're still in contention. Does this put those rocky times behind you?
100%. Days like this, when you know you have to go get it, you have to go get it in a restart. Those are the best days. We did not have the speed to win that race. We took it away from the 20 and the 43 and the 18. So that is the best feeling. And thank you to Max Siegel, Rev Racing, everyone that helps with this program. Team Chevy. Without them, we wouldn't be here. And they've helped us get to victory lane 3 times this year.
I can only imagine looking in the rearview mirror what it was like for you. You saw Daniel Dye was right there on your rear bumper at many times, but Corey Heim, he came from far back, closed that gap, and made a charge. Who were you more worried about?
I was worried, when those two got linked up, because then they could give each other runs. When it's one of them, you have to really protect in one way. When it's both of them, they help each other get the run on me. So I was worried about both. I was just trying to stall everyone out, and luckily at this big track you could do that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nick Sanchez back in victory lane, the 3rd time this year, the 4th career win.
And yeah, we saw he was getting some air, hand out the window, looking out the mirror, playing defense. I don't know if he was Charles Harris. That's a defensive player for the Detroit Lions in this area. That was Nick Sanchez's game today, and he does it well. There you see the results as Corey Heim finishes second. What a day for Daniel Dye and Sammy Smith. Austin coming from the back of the pack to finish top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Daniel came on really strong there at the end, and Sammy and those guys, they must have done the right adjustment because they had a shot to win the race. And obviously, Corey Heim class of the field today, but they just didn't have the execution that Nick Sanchez and the 2 team did today. That was awesome race, awesome defense by Nick. Well-deserved win.
Rajah Caruth finishes 6th. I did some quick math. There are bonus points for winning a race. I think it's going to be a 6-point lead by Sanchez heading into our next race at Watkins Glen.
I did some math as well. Austin, you've been in the booth 3 times this year in the ARCA Menards series, and who's won those races?
Nick Sanchez has won all 3 of those races that I've been in the booth. So, no, it's been cool, and that execution is so important, especially as you move up and being able to get it done on a track this big. Those are 3 big tracks they've been able to get it done on, and it's certainly exciting to get a win.
I didn't really do the math. You did the math earlier.
I did.
You made that comment.
Could be way wrong, too. Yeah, me doing math, that's not a good idea.
Say it with confidence. The next race for the ARCA Menards series is Watkins Glen, a road course. And again, that spotlight will be on because you guys will be there on it's a cup track as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Big weekend, big opportunity race for those guys to get on a road course, get some more experience in these big, heavy stock cars, and it should be a fun race to watch. Hopefully, y'all tune in.
Of course, another driver that we were watching today had a good run, didn't get it done, but so close was Corey Heim. Mike?
He had a great run, a very fast race car most of the day. Little close calls with the wall there in the closing laps, and then it was forced you to kind of really turn it up a little bit. What were those last 10 laps like for you?
Yeah, I mean, the restart, just didn't have a pusher there, which, sucked for sure, but, you can't really count on that in racing, and I had to do it myself, which is, okay, that's part of it. This Custom Tools Camry was phenomenal today, and if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have even really had a shot at it in dirty air. Drove it really hard, and I had a massive run off of 2. If I could just stick it off of 2 and hold that run off of 2, and I just laid it in the fence a little bit. So that's my fault. I wish that caution didn't come out, but it's part of it.
Corey Heim finishes second today. Very solid run.
Take a look at our Reese's Sweet Move nominees. Again, this is how you, as a race viewer, can get involved. You can vote on your pick for the Sweet Move of the race. And let's start off with the Daniel Dye's move early in the race, Jim.
Giddy up, go. That was early on. He had to start the back of the field with a great charge to get in the top 5 with that one.
So that is nominee number 1. And then this was lap 42, Nick Sanchez.
Just getting that good run. He got a great help there, Austin, from his teammate, didn't he?
Yeah, and I feel like him getting this experience out in the lead really helped him in late race situations, being able to figure it out. Here you are, late race situation, big push off of the 43 car, and really catalyst for Nick winning this race.
That's our 3rd nomination, winning move by Nick Sanchez. What do you think the sweet move of the race is? Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Join us on Twitter. You vote at ARCA_racing.
So you have that 43, and then you have 2 choices on Nick Sanchez, the move on lap 42 or that move closing.
I'd argue that the 43 was responsible for the sweet move on the last one.
Okay.
Nick Sanchez, and you heard it in Corey's interview, he's pretty bummed about not having a push there on that restart. And that 43 car did a great job getting Nick the lead.
All right, let's hear from that number 43 right now, Mike.
Talk about a strong run, Krista. Remember, Daniel Dye had to start at the back of the field because of adjustments after qualifying, but he came out with the front. At one point, it looked like you really were threatening for the win. What did you need to get by Nick Sanchez?
I think it's just experience. This is my first race on a track like this. So to come out here 3rd the way we did is really, really cool. I'm super proud to be a part of this GMS racing organization. To have Helm on the car, the colors look great. It was super cool to run up front with these guys. Raced really, really good. Chad made good calls all day to get the car better. And, we just came out here with a decent points day. Should have been a little closer to the 2, but we got some points on the 6, so it's a win.
Daniel Dye, 3rd here in Michigan today.
I think it's really cool that the winner of the race is the number 2, and alongside us up in the booth, we have the winner, the driver of the Cup Series number 2.
I'd certainly like to be exactly where Nick is this time tomorrow. That'd be pretty special. But long day ahead, and congrats to those guys. Congrats to Nick and his family. And I guess they're probably going to want me to do a few more of these races if this keeps happening. But I guess we'll see.
Nick Sanchez will insist Austin Cindric is in the booth for the rest of the year, going for his first championship. Bright future ahead for Nick Sanchez. His mom Shanny's here today. They're celebrating in Victory Lane at Michigan. A huge win for Sanchez.
Well, Austin, you can join us anytime. We love having you, and I really think you brought a lot when you talked about you were out of your seat, your heart was racing. We were racing. I don't know if those guys, their hearts were racing in the hot air balloon here as well.
I'd rather stick in the race car than the hot air balloon. Don't sign me up for that.
For Mike Massaro, Jim Trado, and Austin Cindric, I'm Krista Kelly saying congratulations to our ARCA Menards Series 2022 Henry Ford Health 200 winner at Michigan, Nick Sanchez. Way to go.